So today it's the 8th of February. Why am I watching? I know exactly what day it is. 8th of February 2023 as I'm recording this. And it might not mean anything to you. For you, it's possibly just a normal Wednesday. But for me, is it Wednesday? It is Wednesday. Today is a great day because today I am celebrating my company birthday. I have been a full-time magician for 9 years. 9 years! Just listen to that. Isn't that amazing? If we're just meeting or if you're new to this channel, my name is Ravn. I'm a full-time magician and YouTuber. I have been doing this full-time for 9 years. And this video I thought would be a great way for me to tell you how I did it. How I just left everything behind and just threw myself out there, because that's literally what happened. Let's back up the everything. Let's okay, we're gonna go back in time 30 years. Now you're thinking to yourself, there's no way Caroline was born 30 years ago. Ah, you're too sweet. You're too sweet. No, but seriously, 30 years ago, like on the day, not really 100% on the day, but 30 years ago, my grandfather decided it was time to ruin my life and teach me some magic tricks. Yes, he did. He decided of all of his grandkids, he had, at the time, let me think, 9 or 10 grandkids. He decided Caroline is gonna be the one who's gonna learn the art of magic. And I don't know really why he did that. You know, I have some theories, and if you go to my platform, you might actually read some of my theory behind this. We don't have time for that today. If you haven't seen it already, I have a page called ravnmagic.com, where it's basically I tell you everything you need to make magic your full-time career. So everything from showing you full videos of performances, we're doing live streams, and I'm telling you everything behind the scenes. There are courses, how to get on cruise ships. Everything you're gonna need is on there. And also, if you use the code CarolineVIP, it will give you 50% off for the first 3 months of the monthly subscription. You're welcome. Thank me later. So 30 years ago, he decided to teach me these magic tricks. And you know, I fell in love with magic in a way that I think you need to have. You need to have that kind of love for magic if you want to do this full time. And I've had that my entire life. But after he passed away, I didn't have anyone to do magic with anymore. I was a very bullied child, and I was very lonely as a kid. I mean, I had a lot of siblings, but I never felt like I was, you know, part of the crew, I guess. So I'm the middle child, have 2 older sisters, 2 younger brothers who are twins. I was just left there in the middle, you know, and I was super bullied in school. I didn't have anybody to show magic to. I was super lonely. And then when I was doing magic with my grandpa, that was literally the only time I felt seen and alive. And then after he passed away, there was no magic left. It sounds so sad, you know, and it really was sad. But now that I think of it, it's like, it's water under the bridge. That's not the right thing to say about your dead grandpa. But you know what I mean? Like, it's been such a long time that doesn't affect me the same way that it did, of course, in the past. I still had this feeling of loneliness, and I started studying theology because I was part of the church when I was doing my confirmations. It was great. I had a good time, and I studied theology for 5.5 years. 5.5 years before I decided to do magic. And at the time I was working in the church, I was working with homeless people, and I was leading youth groups, and you know, I had a good job. I really enjoyed it. I felt like I was really helping people, and it was very, very nice, and I loved it. But then my boss died of cancer. Now I'm tossing you into this horrible story. But yeah, he died of cancer, and I started questioning if there is a God. I don't think maybe he's as good or loving as I thought. And I started having this like religious crisis. I wasn't sure what I believed in anymore. In all of this like drama happening in my mind, I went to go see a magic show, as you do. Went to go see a magic show. And afterwards, for some reason, I was invited backstage. Well, it wasn't really backstage, but it kind of was like a backstage area. So some dudes that I didn't know at the time, they asked me if I knew any tricks. And I hadn't done magic for like 15 years. But I had this one trick that I knew, so I showed them a card trick. It wasn't very good, and one of the men in that room just happened to be Tom Stone. If you don't know Tom Stone, you have to look him up. He's amazing. He's probably the only wizard we have in the world. He's great. And he thought that he would bring me in under his wings and take care of me and make sure that I, you know, learned the ways of magic. And he's been such an amazing mentor. He's still a very dear friend, and I try to see him as much as I possibly can. And whenever I have a big show coming on, I always ask him to come in and consult and help out. And this was December 2013. It feels like a really, really long time ago. And so I see him, and he offers to teach me magic, and I agree. So we spent a weekend together. He taught me everything. You know, it was not everything, of course, because magic is like the biggest thing out there. But it felt like it was doing this, and then all of a sudden there was like a DVD or a chocolate bar or I don't know, a sponge ball. It was literally, this is what it felt like. After that weekend, I felt this big like ache in my body, like I have to do this full time, otherwise I'm not gonna do it. And at the time, I obviously didn't have any kids, or you know, I had a dog. I lived very close to my dad, and I had a very cheap apartment that I really, really liked. And I thought to myself, like, if I wanted to do this full time, it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take like a bunch of money to do this and try this out. It's not like I'm gonna have to buy, you know, a bunch of inventory or whatever. So what ended up happening was that I basically got all of my food from my dad. Don't tell my siblings. Yeah, he really took care of me. But I basically only needed to cover rent and some more so I could, you know, live my life. I had some money saved up, so, you know, I had some of that. But I started calling newspapers like very early on. So I met him in December, and then by February, I decided this is when I'm doing this full time. So I quit my job, quit my studies, and went all in. So I called the newspapers, and I was like, oh, hello, my name is Caroline. I think that maybe I want to be a magician, you know, and I'm sure I wasn't very convincing or anything. But yeah, I quit my job, this is what I'm gonna do. And this kind of big newspaper came to my apartment, and they were taking photos, we were shooting a video. And you know, I remember the article when it came out, and it was like, Caroline Ravn, she's hoping for a magical way to make a living or something like that. It doesn't translate great. I have this first article, and I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so cool. Maybe I'm gonna get some gigs from this. I didn't get any gigs from that one. But what ended up happening was that this is quite a big magazine. It was newspaper, not really big or anything. But somebody who worked at a really big kids, what is it called? Like a kids magazine, they called me up. And I remember when I was a kid, I had this in school. And so they called me up, and they were like, oh, we're calling from this and this magazine. And I was like, oh, do you guys still exist? And I felt like, oh my God, that's the wrong thing to say to someone who wants to do a portrait of you. Yeah, and they were just laughing, and they thought it was great. They ended up flying to my house. And this is 3 months after I started doing this full time. 3 months after, they're in my house. Well, actually 3 months after the article came out, the magazine came out. I'm sitting there, I'm doing this amazing big interview. It ended up being, you know, 6 or 7 pages in the magazine, but also it was a big poster. You know what? I'm gonna find this. Okay, so there will be no laughing. There will be no name calling. There will be nothing, but there will also be my very first cover for a magazine. I feel like I don't want to show this to you, but I will. But when you watch it, remember this beautiful face, okay? Remember my amazing career. Remember all the great things I've done. But this is where it started. Oh, look at that. That's a bunny in a hat. Oh my God, I'm such a geek. I hate it and I love it at the same time. But yeah, here it is. This is me. Very first time. Back here, this was actually the floor in my apartment. Yeah, that was my first ever cover. And then we have here, that's me. Look at that. Still have those cups actually. That's when I was rehearsing for my very first Swedish Nationals. My Swedish Nationals, that was fun. And then we have to go into here's the poster. As I said, I'm gonna remind you of this. No name calling, no making fun, but that's me. Oh my God, I can't even believe I'm showing this to you. Okay, there's one photo that's even worse. Oh my God, what is going on here? I'm floating a bill and I look like I'm crazy. I feel like I don't want to show you guys anymore. But yeah, that was the first ever magazine that I was featured in. And that changed everything. Like, I'm laughing right now, but that changed everything. This one came out in 504, I think, 1,000 copies. I'll check. 504,000 copies. All over the country. Sweden is a small country. So basically every kid in the country got one of these, right? And apparently somebody who worked at the biggest kids station on TV saw it too, obviously, because it's a big magazine. And they ended up calling me asking if I wanted to come on TV and do like a segment of magic. And, you know, I was so nervous, and this is my channel, I can say whatever the fuck I want, and when I say we use the duck sound, right? It's my channel, I can say whatever the fuck I want. But you know, people were not happy for me. The other magicians, they were giving me such a hard time. Like, oh, she's only getting this because she's a girl. What did she ever do? Oh my God, who's she? What, you know, like, they were really not happy for me. And I felt like there was not many people who were rooting for me. And you know, I feel like that happens so many times in magic, that we're so afraid of, what are we afraid of really? That somebody's gonna take your gig? It's not gonna happen. We're not that many magicians, and it's, you know, there's events happening every single day, like 1 million events happening every single day. You just have to make sure that you are unique enough and you're special enough, you have like, you're talented enough or whatever, and you'll get it. We can talk about that another day, but you know, today's about me. It's about me, not about you, okay? So, platform, go to the platform. I have all of the things you need. Anyways, back to the story. So people weren't very happy for me, and I felt like if I wanted to do magic, I needed to take this seriously. Because, you know, I'm not doing magic for my peers, of course, and it's not like, you know, I'm gonna be famous just for magicians, and it's not like that's ever gonna pay my rent. But anyways, I felt like I wanted them to be on my side, so I decided very early on, magic, I need to be good. You know, I have to be very, very good at my craft. Since I was doing it full time, I ended up having, you know, all of the time in the world to just rehearse. So what I did was I read all the books I could. It didn't matter to me if it was kids' magic books or mentalism or card tricks or, you know, anything. I just read everything that I could get my hands on. I bought some super cheap props from somebody who had passed away, so I bought their magic collection. I also got some magic collections from somebody who passed away. So I got a lot of magic sent to my house in a very short period of time. And I was just going through all of the props, you know, feeling everything, making sure I understood how the devices worked. And I feel like I missed out so many years when I was not rehearsing, you know, my second deals and the pass and all of these things that I don't use. I feel like I missed out on all of that, but I have so much knowledge when it comes to, you know, the technical stuff. Like, well, not like the technical moves or anything, but the devices. I know about the devices. I know how it works and all of these things. So what ended up happening was I was rehearsing during most of the time when I was like afternoons and evenings. I was rehearsing when I was not performing. And during the days, I was just networking all the time, like going to all of the networking events that I could possibly find. I was doing, you know, shows for free to make sure that I got out there. I did a lot of interviews, I did a lot of radio, just really hustling, trying to be a name. And it takes so much energy. It takes so much energy to go up to do like a 7 in the morning show, but it's totally worth it. Like, if you're watching this and you want to do this full time, you have to put in the work. That is not just you learning the pass. It's not about you doing the perfect dove pan act. It's about you actually getting out there and becoming a name. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat this for you because it's gonna be hard and it's gonna take time, dedication. But I will point you in one direction that I really think you should take to heart. I want you to look up Business Network International. It's BNI. It sounds like CIA, but it's not. It's all over the world. And I used to go to their meetings all the time. And when you go there, this will make sense when you go. You're gonna have, I think it's 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Make sure you don't just stand up and say, "Hi, I'm Caroline. I am a magician and I like card tricks." You need a presentation. You need to do something fun. do a trick, something super duper quick, make sure they remember you and make the person who's after you feel like that was a hard act to follow. That's the little golden nugget for today, okay? So I was doing these things, I was doing these networking events all the time, I was doing the rehearsals in the evenings, and I was doing Swedish nationals, I was doing the Nordic championships. And, you know, I was just hustling it. You know, people ask me all the time, well, how did you do it? How did you do it? It was really that. It was hard work. It was getting up every morning, you know, learning all of these things and creating a show. I have a lot of material on how you create your own show. And if you go to my platform again, that's where I'm gonna have the deeper courses, and we're gonna do like live streams and talk about this. You'll be able to ask questions. For me, it's always been very important to have a show that I'm very happy with. As I said, people were not very supportive in the beginning. And that really triggered something in me. Like, I need to make sure that I'm good. So I've focused on creating a show that is, well, good and funny. If you haven't seen it, I posted a video, I'll link that right up here. I posted a video last week of a performance I did 2019. A lot has happened since. A lot has happened since. But I think it's very nice to be able to see a full performance from start to finish, not just the golden pieces, you know, because that doesn't make any sense and you won't learn anything from that. But actually watching full performances will, I think. So for me, I created a show that I was happy with, and I started doing it over and over and over again. Of course, I add new material all the time and take things out that I don't really feel fits me anymore. But you know, I was starting scripting early on, I was adding my music early on, I was making sure that my lowest level was always trying to be better and better and better. Does that make any sense to you? Like, you can have a bad day at work, but when you're doing this full time and you're running your own business, you can't have a bad day. So what you really have to do is just raise your level of what is the worst day you could possibly have all the time, just making sure that that goes up all the time. And I have a friend he's a stand-up comedian, and he says what he loves about doing a bad show is that it normally takes a really long time until the next one. And I feel like he has a point, because when you're doing this so much, if you're out there every week and possibly more than once a week just performing and doing your gigs, it's gonna go down. Like, things are gonna happen, and the more you are aware of your surroundings and your material, the easier it's gonna be for you to just bounce back up, you know. And when a bad thing happens, it's very easy to just be like, oh my god, that was my fault, and this, and it might have been your fault, but you know, you can't predict everything, not even if you're Max Maven or, you know, Darren Brown or whoever. Okay, so let's just whoop back to when things are going great. 2018, well, 2017 actually, in the summer, I decided I was gonna do a tour. So I started creating a show called Where the Magic Happens. In December, I booked a theater for May, and it was just great. I knew early on that I could not do this myself, so I hired a scriptwriter, a director, I hired Tom, and another prop builder to create this show, Where the Magic Happens. And it was an amazing, amazing journey to do. I highly recommend you to create your own show. It's so much fun. I can't even just tell you in one sentence how great it is, but you're gonna learn so much from this. So I did that 2018. I went on tour for a few months, just around the country. A year later, I was performing all the time, like everywhere. People had seen me on TV, or they had seen me on the news, or they've seen my show, or their husband had booked me for their show, so now they wanted me to do their show. And you know, word of mouth, and then having an amazing website, all of these things are really gonna help you to get out there. And that's what it did for me. And here I am, you know, 9 years later, you know, 9 years since this. And it's I mean, I can sit here and say like, oh my god, 9 years, that's so long ago. But really, 9 years, that's nothing. During this time, I've done a national tour, I've toured the world, I've done Vegas, I'm working on these luxury cruise ships, I've done 5 TED Talks. You know, all of these things, it's not by accident. It's not like these things just fall on your lap. This is something you really have to work on, work for. Yeah, but then I guess that's what I wanted to say. Happy 9-year anniversary to me. Happy birthday, my company, to me. And in 1 year, it's gonna be 10 years. And I hope that if you are sitting there thinking, oh my god, I wish I did magic full time, just do it. And I'm hoping that in 9 years, you're gonna tag me in a video and say, congratulations to yourself for 9 years doing this full time, tagging me and say, Caroline, thank you so much for being such an inspiration. I'm so happy that I did this, because you will not regret it. It's gonna be hard, it's gonna be scary, you're gonna have no money at times, but that's totally fine. I would probably not do this when I had tiny, tiny babies though. That's the only thing I would say. Like, don't do this when you have really, really small kids. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, bye! You know, I think maybe I should do one of these videos again in a year and I'll tell you what happened my year between 9 years and 10 years, because this is gonna be a big year for me. I have so many great things planned. Like, I'm doubling my income this year. How crazy is that? That's my goal. I'm gonna double my income, which means not only I have to do more shows, I also have to up my fee, and I did. And so far, so good.